Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Okay, so if you like video games like Darkest Dungeon, and you also like pre-programmed game books like Choose Your Own Adventures or fighting fantasy books or some of the pre-programmed adventures and things like Four Against Darkness, then this might be a game for you. And that game is called Marching Order. So Marching Order was this game was provided to me by the designers and publisher, and they are available or they can be located at crumblingkeep.com. So right now this game is out of print. I think you might still be able to do a print a DIY version, a PDF, a print on demand version that you can download, but I'm not exactly positive. However, the game is going to be coming out on Kickstarter again. This was a Kickstarter game with the base game made available along with a new expansion, which will include some new adventures for you to take your bands of rogues on. And I think this game is pretty good. It's a lot of fun. It is a small game in the sense that you are only dealing really with 2 books and a deck of monster cards and a deck of hero cards. However, it is also kind of a table hog in a weird way. It probably takes up the most space of any small game I know of, because you do need to have a map out for some graphic paper for a map, and you do need these rather large character sheets and cards, which are used to keep track of your heroes and a variety of things that your heroes are going to be doing and their actions and their special abilities. And there is a lot of information on the character sheet that really does the size becomes necessary. I wish I could shrink all of this down to a smaller size, and maybe once you start getting the game, maybe once you start knowing the game a little bit more, you can. But you also do need to keep dice on these sheets, as they represent your cooldown for your abilities, kind of like in an MMO, and you have to keep track of the cooldown with D6. So you kind of need quite a bit of space just to play this small game. So just know that going in. And that, along with one other little thing, is probably my main complaint with the game. And that would be maybe a little lack of editing, or some of the clarity in some of the rules and the way they're presented. But I do know that the designer has said that they are going to actually pay an editor for the next version of the game, and that is really good. But yes, so far I think this game is pretty cool. It is definitely in the vein of Hand of Doom, of Dungeon Degenerates. Well, my brain just almost blinked there. Dungeon Degenerates, Hand of Doom, in that it is kind of irreverent. It's a little edgy. It's got a kind of a weird sense of humor. It's definitely that kind of Warhammer old world, what they would call, what is it, mud, blood, and shit style. And so know that going in. There is a little bit of crude humor. One of the mechanics is called the bullshit mechanic, and that's actually one of the coolest mechanics in the game, and I absolutely love it. And we'll talk a little bit about what that is in a minute. But let's take a look at the book here first. So you do get 2 books with the game, and the first book is going to be your rules and your information, and the second book is going to be your delves, and those are your so I got the books mixed up. You have your delves here, and those are your adventures that you're going to be going on. And I believe the game comes with 4 adventures to go on. And then you have your rule book and information book. So let's take a look at that first here. So Marching Order, the Mud and Blood edition. So yeah, the only thing that left off was the shit there. So you do get a little content warning. Getting serious for just a moment. Marching Order contains content that may be harmful for some individuals. While it is mostly written in a humorous tone, the following are in the text and or may come up in play, and those include animal death, animal violence, blood, body horror, corpses, bones, death, drug use, drinking, emotional abuse, food, mental illness, poisoning, skeletons, spiders, swearing, verbal abuse, violence, vomit, and weapons. So yeah, you can kind of get the tone they're kind of going for there. And the credits here, the author was James Crane, game design by James Crane and Brad Kishbaugh, graphic design by Brad Kishbaugh. And then we also have interior art used with permission from Daniel Kamerchi, Wes James, Stephen Reed, and J.E. Shields. And you also have some stuff from Fat Goblin Games there. A little quote here. This is from The Standoff by Mustafa Bekir. I always thought I would die in some shithole, but I didn't think it'd be this shithole. Ah, shut up, said the wizard. I'd rather be at the front of this line than listen to you bitch for another moment. That can be arranged, the sellsword yelled back, his grip tightened around his sword as he stared down 4 approaching goblins, their mouths frothing with determination. So what you're going to be doing in this game is you are going to be putting together a band of rogues from quite a few, and you're going to start off with a certain amount of money. Now, this is mostly a solo game, I think, but you can play with multiple players. And if you do that, each one of you would take a rogue. When you go into a dungeon, you always have to take 4 rogues, and you do have to kind of balance the money, the loot that you're earning, your earnings as you leave the dungeons, in order to always have a stable of 4 available rogues. And as those rogues get more loot, get more coin, well, then they can level up and they can learn new abilities. And you can also buy additional rogues to cycle in and out of your gallery. So right now I have a Cosmic Marine, or these are the ones that I haven't hired yet, I should say. A Cosmic Marine, a Knight, a Musketeer, a Thief, a Torch Bearer, a Were-Rat Rogue. I don't think you can hire him. I think one of your heroes gets turned into him. A Wizard, a Barbarian, and a Construct. So the Construct is interesting in that you can't actually hire this as one of your rogues, but if you are playing with 3 players, this Construct gets added to your band as a 4th member. And then the rogues that I am playing with right now in my party are the Sellsword, the Alchemist, the Doctor, and the Archer. And you're going to set those up in a row in a battle line. Here we actually have the battle line that separates the enemies from the rogues. A lot like Darkest Dungeon. The combat in this game is where this game is like Darkest Dungeon. The mapping is where it's kind of like a old school fighting fantasy game. And then the Delve book is where it is kind of like a choose your own adventure. So there's kind of like 3 different kind of games going on. But right now, my order is I have the Sellsword up front, and he is followed by the Alchemist, followed by the Doctor, and finally followed by the Archer, because the Archer has ranged combat. And so she needs to have a lot of range in order for her to attack enemies in the enemy's line there, the enemy's marching order. So once you get your heroes picked and hired, well, then you can do a little bit of shopping in the town. The game starts off with a nice glossary where you're going to get all of the terms that you're going to need. And then it's going to tell you how to set up the game, how to get your starting coin, buying your initial rogues, what you do in different number of players in a game, and then fleshing out your rogues talks a little bit about buying their starting items and about their abilities. And then you can also go shopping. And here we have our Welcome to Rot Bottom portion of the book. And this is all the things you can do in town while you are not in a delve. So you can go to the inn here and you can recoup. You can drink at the end, you get a room at the end. You can go to training so you can learn new abilities and level up your rogues. You can get a life coach. That would let you get rid of a negative trait, because you can get negative traits in this game. Or you can also resurrect a hero. You can go carousing, which lets you roll 3 dice for a random thing, such as maybe I made quite the ass of myself. Any services bought during the next rest phase cause an additional 5 coins. Or, he was a fine lay, but he gave me the itch. Lose 2 health. So yeah, again, you can see the kind of body, maybe a little raunchy humor here. Or you can go to the general store where you can buy things like Alchemist Fire or Anti-Venom. You can buy a backpack so you could hold more, a pickaxe. You're going to want to buy torches, because torches are a necessary part of the game. And then there are also a number of different gambling games you can play, such as Hack and Slash, Piss on Your Graves, Delver's Dice, and that's it. So you can you can gamble to make some more coin there. And then you have your how to play. And the rules are relatively simple. You have a breakdown of how you're going to read your different segments, your different paragraphs, your sections in your delve book, how to make attack rolls and how to make basic rolls. The rolls are very simple in this game. You're going to be rolling a d6. You're going to be adding any necessary stat bonuses, such as maybe your physical. Your defense is going to be the target number, same as the enemies will have a defense. That's the target number that you have to roll to make to do damage. You have health. You have a magic ability. You can tinker. You can have an awareness, an escape ability, luck, and resolve. So there are a whole bunch of different stats, and those all have bonuses attributed to them that you're going to be applying to the dice rolls, trying to hit certain target numbers. And if you succeed, if you meet or hit or exceed the target number, well, then you succeed in that check. And it does encourage you to do some mapping. I have started in my second game here, just a little bit of a map to help me realize where I needed to go. You have a section here that covers light and darkness, because you do need torches, and you're going to keep track of how many torches you have there. And then as you burn through the torch, you're going to mark it down on this track here. And finally, it's going to go out. And if you are ever without any torches, well, then bad stuff starts to happen to you in the dungeon. And combat is relatively simple. When you're in combat, you can do a few things. You can move, so you can swap places with an adjacent rogue in your battle line, in your marching order there. You can attack an adjacent enemy. So an adjacent would be your first guy up here, your first order in the marching order, your first rogue there could attack the adjacent enemy. Or ranged rogues. The archer, if you use her basic ability, she can target a creature that's 5 or 6 spaces away. So that is kind of why you do want to keep your rogue, your range characters in the back here, because then you're going to be counting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 there. So there is a lot of ground covered. And so it is really important to think about where you place your rogues in your marching order. I inadvertently kind of had my archer up 1. I had my doctor in the back because he's my healer. But then the rogue couldn't really target the enemies properly. So I had to take an action to move her back. So that way she just had more options to take care of the enemies. And I do think that the characters are rather interesting. So in addition to all of your stats, each character is going to have 4 different actions. And you start the game with 2. So the rogue's basic action is an arrow. So a basic attack, target a creature that is 5 to 6 spaces away, make a physical attack roll versus their defense. So her physical attack is a +1. So if I was attacking this giant rat here, which has a defense of 1, and I would roll a d6. I rolled a 3. I would add 1 for my physical, so that would be 4. -1 defense is 3, and it has 3 health, so she would have killed the giant rat with that attack. Then her other ability that she starts the game with, I chose Rain of Arrows. Make an attack roll versus every enemy figure. Each success hit suffers half damage. Okay, but now there's a little 5 here. Well, that's a countdown. That's a cooldown. So I have to put a d6 on there. That is 5. And at the top of each turn, that's going to count down to 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I can use the that ability again. Or also as an action, I can focus, which allows me to count down to subtract 1 from all of my countdown abilities in a single go. So I can use my abilities quicker in exchange for kind of taking a turn off. But the bullshit portion of this game, after each of the rogues has gone, you're going to roll your bullshit dice. And you start with 2 things on your list here. One is a quality and the other is a flaw. And those are rolled randomly at the beginning of the game. So right now, my quality is that was a great shot. And that is your next action can target 1 additional creature that is adjacent to the original target. My flaw is stay out of my way. And that says target a random ally, make a physical attack roll versus their defense. So after she has gone, I roll the bullshit dice. And if I roll a 1 or a 6, then that power triggers. And as you're playing the game, you might get more flaws, which the flaws are going to take up more of this chart here. Or you might get more qualities, which those are going to take up a space here. So when you go back into town, you can visit that one store that I mentioned where you can pay to have flaws removed from your bullshit list in order to make room for more qualities. And that is really cool because even though you have some limited choices to make in this game and some decisions to make, in addition to that, there is a really interesting random element to the way that the characters attack. And I think that's a really neat way to kind of simulate that kind of nasty randomness of the video game Darkest Dungeon. Additionally, when the enemies attack, they are going to roll on their actions for a random action, what they're going to do. Then at the end of their turn, they also have a small bullshit list. And so something bad might happen to them, or they might do something additionally bad to one of your rogues. So that is really cool. That is my favorite thing in the game. I hardly ever see anything like that in a board game. And to tell you the truth, it's one of those things that since I'm aware of it now, I will kind of miss it in other games. It's so simple, but it really does add a lot to the characters. And I think they're pretty interesting. They have some different flavor text. The names of the qualities and flaws are interesting. They go along with the different characters. And it just adds a really nice little spice to the combat and to the randomness. So here's all the enemies in the game. We have giant spiders, venom spiders, rats, skeleton warriors, goblin lords, goblin slingers, imps, were-rat pokers, were-rat poisoners, goblin smashers, goblin sneak thieves, the ominous presence, skeleton archers, skeleton abominations, goblin sneak thieves, goblin wall boys with their giant shields, their giant tower shields there, more ominous presence, imps, an obscene skull, living statue, a skeleton hand, dire wolf, Siegfried von Shadowhammer, probably one of the bosses there, goblin juicer, a zombie rat, and a were-rat dagger thrower. So yeah, some cool enemies there. And then let's take a quick look at the Delve book, because I don't want to give too much away. But the Delve book kind of works like your regular choose your own adventure or fighting fantasy game. There are 4 delves in this book. There's that expansion that's going to be coming out that's going to add more. And you're going to have different little paragraphs you're going to be reading. Each one is going to be associated with a room. And then sometimes within each room, you can choose to do things or not, search different items and things like that. So like right now, I was in this room A. Maggot-ridden grain and sour ale spills across the floor. Even if there was something still drinkable in this room, you'd have to deal with the giant rats to get it. So then you set up your giant rats, and that's who I'm fighting right now. This ETN, that's the escape target number. The last hero, the last rogue in your marching order can always escape as an action. So one by one, you can escape from a kind of a deadly encounter. But then after you deal with the enemies, then you might be able to do something else in the room, such as do you wish to try the ale? Any rogue may declare they wish to do so now. If any rogue does so, let's say my alchemist. That makes sense. An alchemist might want to experiment with an ale there. So let's go to S and let's just see what happens. I know this is kind of out of turn, but let's see. It burns as it goes down. You manage not to gag while it burns your throat. This is really something. Your vision wavers a bit, but you feel like you could run straight through a wall. Every rogue who declared they would try the ale gains the condition shit-faced 6. Return to A. So that means it would last 6 countdown, 6 cool down turns. And let's see what that would allow me to do here. So these are all the different conditions that you can gain. So shit-faced gives a creature a +2 physical, -1 defense, and -1 awareness. So it kind of turns them into a raging ability. But you can go shieldless, you can get poisoned, you can be protected, you can become puny, you can get rat trapped, you can have regeneration, restrained, grappled, living undead, hungover, fooled, on fire, allied, attuned, bleed. There's a lot of different conditions, and they all have pretty interesting little gameplay elements to them. So yeah, that was a look at Marching Order. I think this game is pretty cool. If you are into Darkest Dungeon, if you are into Choose Your Own Adventures, pre-programmed dungeons, and things like fighting fantasy, with a little bit of some cool tactical combat, some cool choices and decisions to make, and that really neat bullshit element of randomness, along with some really good black and white art, this is a neat little game. Hopefully the rules, maybe there's an updated second edition that's going to be coming along with the new Kickstarter, or at least the new stuff will maybe have a better pass of an editor's eyes. Editing is so important in these games, but I also do realize that it is the thing that is very expensive, and sometimes it's out of reach. It's out of the plan for these smaller kind of indie games. So, but it is nice to see that there is going to be a more attention paid to that in the future. So yeah, that was Marching Order. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.